All right, welcome everybody to the return of our Wednesday Walks Through Culver History series. I'm Jeff Kenney, Culver Academy's Museum and Archives Manager. Behind the camera is Jerry Ney, class of 1957, as he has been many times in the past with this series. As you've seen, if you're on social media and Facebook, this is a series that is not weekly anymore. We're going to try to do it monthly. And of course, another difference is I'm wearing a mask. We started the series in the summer, didn't have to wear masks as the campus was empty. Things have changed quite a bit, and particularly for a lot of our audience, the idea of retail at Culver and being able to shop and get your Culver swag has really changed this year, so we're going to touch on that. But what we wanted to do, as you might guess, is a little bit of a history of what today we call the campus store. It really, many of you will remember it in the past as the QM or Quartermaster store. You might call it the bookstore. And really, it's interesting, the term Quartermaster is an old military term. If you think of people living in quarters on a military base or barracks, the quartermaster is handling sort of the finances and the stuff, the things that are needed for life for those who are quartered on the base. So there actually used to be a cadet quartermaster position way back, near to the beginning of the school, but there also virtually from the beginning has been an adult who works for the school who is the quartermaster. He's handling these kinds of retail things. There's always been kind of a parallel function of uniform or tailor role. So not only handling getting cadets in those days, cadets only uniforms, but maybe selling some related items to students. So these are kind of parallel sort of lungs of the operation. Just as a quick sidebar, one of our early tailors, I think our first real campus tailor was an alum named David Braden. He's ostensibly the first cadet ever to enroll at Culver in 1894. He graduates in 1896. In 1906, he comes back and begins working in uniform as Culver wanted to be done outsourcing all of our uniform functions. And he's going to open a shop in what later becomes the barber shop under South Barrack called the Toggery Shop. He's also going to be responsible for starting the Shack in the former Palmer House, later Culver Inn. He ties into the story just a little bit as he's going to share some retail space with the old QM store. So there's a 1906 map we'll show here on the screen that shows there was a commissary building that combined QM and commissary. It was really north of South Barrack, if that makes sense, kind of close to where today's dining hall, used to be known as the mess hall, is located before the dining hall was built in 1911. In 1921, the former Armory building, which is north of today's mess hall. It's gone now. It would be south of what many of us think of the post office. I know it's getting a little complicated with all the south-north, but the former Armory gives way to the Armory many of you will remember, which is built in 1917 and is still standing. It's north of the riding hall today. So the old Armory is converted in 1921 to the commercial sales department. So on the ground floor, you'll have, or the first floor, you'll have the QM store, Quartermaster store, and the second floor you have the tailor shop. Some of you will remember that. In fact, I'm going to let Jerry come in and kind of recall and share his recollections of that building and the function of the QM store. Well, so again, here with Jerry Ney, class of 1957, CMA class of 57. Usually he's behind the camera, helping out with our Wednesday walks, but I thought it would be kind of fun to have Jerry reflect a little bit on the role of the QM store, the bookstore, sometimes it was called, during your years in Culver. I'm sure that's going to be a shared experience of a lot of alums from decades back.
Well, so I was, as Jeff said, a class of 1957. I was a two-year cadet, so basically I was here from the fall of 55 to the spring of 57. And we had what we called the bookstore. The bookstore was just north of the mess hall, or now called the dining hall. And it was a much smaller space than we have here in this campus store or bookstore. Much smaller space. We did not have all of these wonderful items, t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs and hats and all these various things. It was basically supplies for classes, plus a lot of brasso and a lot of shoe polish, because in those days those were the two most important things that we did in the barracks, were shine shoes and polish belt buckles. We did not in those days, of course, have credit cards. That came along probably 4 or 5 years later, and so we had coupon books. And I don't really recall how we got those coupon books, but I guess probably our parents paid for them and we had coupons, huh?
Yeah.
So again, it was just part of our daily life. We also had postcards and stationery. I do recall that. So we were expected to write home on a regular basis. We did not have iPhones and instant messaging and that sort of thing. And we also didn't have access to regular telephones or landlines, as we would say today. So that's basically what it was on a daily basis.
I just might add a quick question. When I look at old pictures of the QM store, one thing that is always interesting to me to see is there's a proliferation of magazines, paperback books, and some pictures. Maybe some record albums in the 60s. Was that not part of your recollection?
I would think we had the record albums, because I know I had a pretty good supply of them myself. Magazines, comic books. I really don't remember those. We could have had them.
Okay.
This was 60 plus years ago. So I really don't recall that.
Okay. Okay. But it sounds like obviously the QM store was a pretty important part of student life.
Well, that's where we got our all of our supplies for classes, plus our school books, the textbooks, which is why we called it the bookstore. So it was an important part of the campus for us, daily life.
You bring up an interesting point that textbooks were even part of this space,
yeah.
The 1987 campus store, but there came a time when textbook sales here, or at least textbook access here in this space kind of went away and shifted. Okay.
Very good.
So for many years, David Braden's Toggery Shop that I referenced, by the way, he's also the first alum to have a son attend a Culver program, which is kind of a neat distinction as well. That's going to also be part of that commercial sales building until 1923. He's going to retire in 1935 from Culver, by the way. But that building, that commercial sales building with the QM, the tailor shop, things are going to change in 1958. In 1958, the QM store is going to move just a little bit north to what had been the mathematics building, built in 1916. That's a building a lot of us will remember just up until a few years ago as the post office building. There were military science classes going on and other uses of the building over the years, but the future post office building that was just recently torn down became the new QM store. So from 1958 to 1987, if you attended Culver, you'll remember the QM store or the bookstore as being located in that building. 1987, big changes afoot under the dining hall. It's going to the Lay Student Center, named for Ward Lay III, class of 1984, is going to open up, and we're going to see the campus store open in this space where we're standing right now. Much, kind of larger space, initially selling textbooks as well as these kind of the clothing options and candy, lots of different things that students could buy that kind of came and went over the years. This is going to be called the campus store eventually, as Jerry referenced. So the shift comes in 1987. This retail space is going to displace another kind of campus fixture for many years, starting in the 1950s. That would be Colonel Payson's model railroad layout. The largest model railroad, student-run model railroad in the world, we believe, was located in this space. So many of you will remember it into the 1986 school year as the model railroad layout. Of course, this has been quite a remarkable year for retail at Culver, remarkable in just sort of the strange sense, right? As many of you know, because of the need to protect our students, faculty, and staff, the campus is currently locked down. So your opportunities to purchase Culver items have changed a bit. So I do want to mention, by the way, two options. One of them is the online store. So you can order online, have that delivered, or even if you're in the Culver area, pick up. So it's culver.org/shop. So everything that's available in this store as far as Culver merchandise is available there. And there's another kind of option for Culver shopping that is historic in a couple of senses, and we're going to go take a look at that before we say goodbye today. So again, in kind of a historic spot here, in more than one sense of the word, I'm standing in my home territory, the Culver Academy's museum and gift shop, which is actually located in downtown Culver, 102 South Main Street. And we've been here for some years as a bit of, besides the museum, of course, we have sort of a satellite to the campus store retail operations. That's become pretty important to us right now, because you can come in here, a parent, a Culver graduate, a friend of Culver, a shopper, if you want to come in and purchase Culver items. And we have some unique items that are not in the main campus store, unique to the kind of museum vibe that we have here. So come see us. Remember that you can also shop online, culver.org/shop. The holiday season is coming. Plenty to purchase there for your shopping needs. Please keep an eye on us here on Culver Academy's History Facebook page as we continue not only the Wednesday walks through Culver history in the future, but regular posts, videos, articles, etc. I want to thank Jerry Ney, class of '57, once again behind the camera and in front of it this time around. I'm Jeff Kenney, Museum and Archives Manager for Culver. We'll see you next time.